Time is ticking by at a really rapid pace. I think it was only yesterday I was speaking to Guru Hamdru and reflecting on the fact that this is the second new year that's approaching us since we arrived at the monastery. But we were talking about how it just feels like it was yesterday that we came here. And it's incredible how fast time passes by when that's the last thing you want to happen. Because with every tick and every talk, you move one step closer. You inch a second closer, a minute and an hour closer to the inevitable. The looming dread that's just everywhere. This inevitable that we can't escape. This may be the last time we have, the last opportunity we have for a very long time. So you must always be cognizant of that and always be conscious of that. Just think, it's already time for another New Year celebration. Where's last year gone? A whole year's gone by. Did you even realize that? The crackers are going to start firing off in a few days' time. Another year will come. People will celebrate. They will spend a lot of money on celebrations, on pompous displays of happiness and glory, and then that will pass by as well, just as much as their life passes by them. Another year will go by, and then another, and another, and another, before you realize that's the last New Year I'm going to be spending on this planet Earth, in this life. You know, if that was to happen to us, then we're going to be pretty regretful. We're going to feel very remorseful if that happens to be our fate. True, there's nothing we can do to stop that from happening. People talk about time management all the time. I don't believe in time management. I believe in life management. How can you manage something that you have no control over? You manage your employees, right? Because you can get them to do what you want them to do. You can get them to do the things you want them to do, and you can get them to stop doing the things that you don't want them to do. And therefore, you are their manager. How much can you manage time? Can you make time go any slower or faster? Can you get time to pause, rewind, fast forward? So why do you think you can manage time? That's a flawed concept. You can't manage time, but you can manage your life. You can manage what you do in the limited time that you have. It's such a shame that a lot of people like to major in minor things. A lot of people like to major in minor things. Little things that really don't add a lot of value. That really don't account for much. We have to learn to major in the major things and not worry and trouble ourselves about pesky minor things, because otherwise we're not managing our lives correctly. And before you know it, life has passed by, your time has passed by, and the last tick has stopped, and now it's time to say goodbye. Just ask yourself, how many people did you have to bid farewell to in the last year? Might have been a husband, a father, a mother or a wife, perhaps even a child for some people. What they lost is something they're probably not going to get back again. People say rest in peace. Makes me laugh. If that is resting in peace, do they not realize that what they have been doing throughout their time here is anything but restful? So now it's time to rest in peace. So all that time they've spent alive was not in rest and was not at peace. So if rest in peace comes after death, then I don't know why people want to delay resting in peace. It's a win-win, right? People don't realize these things. If you think life after death is most definitely with gods in the heavens, then let's all double up and get there. Why delay ourselves? People like to say these things to delude themselves. This is self-delusion. Atmavancha. They like to fool themselves. Let's all go to the heavens, where we can spend time gleefully and happily and blissfully ever after. But then let's hurry up. That's all I have to say. Why waste your time here? We have to face reality, ladies and gentlemen. What you like to think is not necessarily what happens out there. What happens is what happens. It doesn't matter if that's what you like to happen or if that's what you don't like to happen. Because we know cause and effect is what determines the outcomes. None of us can stop time passing by. You're a year older than you were last year. Now you're an hour older than when you arrived here. That's an hour closer to the inevitable. So I for one, is not one who celebrates New Year's. And that's because all I can see is time has passed by. I for one is not one who likes to celebrate birthdays. Because really, I'm 1 year closer to death. I'm not saying it's all doom and gloom and therefore let's all just go and cry. Stick our heads under a pillow and cry all day. No, that is negative thinking. What I'm about to talk to you about is not negative thinking. This is thinking realistically, and therefore the only positive way to think. We are stuck in this never-ending circle with one chance to get out of here, with one chance, one opportunity to do something about it. This is why I say let's not major in the minor things. For those of you who are employed in a profession, you are paid a remuneration because of the value that you add to your organization. You're not paid just to turn up. The level of remuneration you receive, the amount of pay you receive, and whatever package and bonus and extras you receive is because of the value you bring to that organization. This is why one person gets paid more and the other person gets paid less. Is because of the value that they bring to the organization, not because of how much time they've spent there. The janitor might spend the same amount of time as the CEO of the company. They both turn up at 8 o'clock and they both leave the office at 5 p.m. So it's not the amount of time you spend at the office that determines how much you have to be paid. It's the value you bring during your time you spend at the organization, in the building, with the others there in their presence. Really, life is no different. We all have equal opportunity to add value to our lives. Equal opportunity. None of us are more equipped or less equipped than the other person. Every Tom, Dick and Harry has equal opportunity. to make the most of their lives. Everyone. Does not matter what age you are. Does not matter whether you are male or female. Does not matter what color you are. Each of us, we have been fully equipped to make the most of our lives. Would you agree? You're all fully equipped to make the most of your lives. Making the most of your lives is not really just spending as much time as you can alive on this planet. That is not what making the most of your lives amount to. That's just, you don't have to do anything for that. To spend as much time on this earth, do you have to do anything about that? No, that just happens. All you have to do is eat, sleep, drink, sleep, and then repeat. Right? Eat, sleep, drink, wake up, eat, sleep, drink. So it's just eat, sleep, drink, repeat. That's all you have to do, and then you will spend as much time as you can on this planet, but that's not what value adding is. Adding value to your lives is what do you do unto yourself and the others that you touch. The people that come into your lives, how do you touch their lives? What changes do you make into their lives, bring into their lives? How do you influence another person to help them understand the value of their life? That is what determines what your life is worth. And that is what determines how much remuneration you receive. Because that remuneration is absolutely essential, because that determines your next stop. The Bodhisattva is someone who perfected in the art of adding value to oneself and adding value to everyone whose lives he touched. There's no one who has done that better. He perfected that art. And everyone who follows on from that lineage does this to a more or lesser extent. An Arhatun Nuhanse is someone who has added value to their lives such that they have achieved the actual outcome, what is really worth achieving during their human lives. The question is, ask yourselves, another year has gone by. Another year is approaching. What are your New Year goals? Have you even considered? Have you started making a list? What happened to last year's list? Did you go back and review? Or was it just at a whim and a fancy? You came up with one. 2 weeks, 2 months into the year, sod it. I can't be bothered with this stuff. Do you realize you're spending the most precious thing you have? Think about how meticulously you spend your money. You draw up accounts, come up with Excel spreadsheets and track your progress, track your spendings, your expenditure, your income versus your expenses. You have monthly budgets, most of you, yearly budgets. Have you budgeted your time? Or is it just money that you have to budget? Anything limited, you have to budget because it's a limited resource. That's why you have to budget it, so you know where you're spending it, right? You can give time and get money. Can you give money and get time? So which do you think you ought to spend more time budgeting? Which do you think is more important to budget? The one resource that's very scarce. The one resource that's most scarce. People spend very little time budgeting. This might sound like a talk on productivity, because it runs in my blood. I was a fanatic about productivity and getting the most of time, making the most of your time, working smart and not working hard. And I was addicted to that sort of stuff in my lay years. So it kind of runs in my blood, so I can't help the urge to talk about these things. But now, I realize that all that learning is not a waste. Because now I realize the value of my time more than I used to. Now I understand my purpose of being here. Those days it used to be to live a happy life, to retire before the age of 50. According to my schedule, I was scheduled to retire at the age of 45. I wanted a free life from that point forward. I didn't want to work from that point forward. I just wanted to live with my wife and be happy. I had it all planned out. But now I realize that is not the purpose of life. Productivity is important. Learning those tips and tricks are important. Now, more so than ever, because now I understand the value of life. This is why I think we should all take some time to reflect on this. In the new year, I really want you to spend some time looking back at how you spent your last year. Are you proud about how you spent your last year? Are you happy about the places and the ways that you spent your time? Would you do the same thing again? Given the chance, if you were able to rewind last year, would you spend that last year exactly the same way you did? Or are there things you'd like to change? Well, guess what? You have another opportunity. You have another opportunity. Another year has approached. This is not just another point to celebrate. There's things you need to do to change your life. Are you happy about the direction of the sail that you have set for yourselves? Are you convinced that this is going to take you to the destination that you want to be in 1 year, 2 years, 5 years, 10 years, 15 years' time, if you have that many years left? If not, well, change. What makes you different from trees and animals and birds and bees is that you can change. A tree can't change the way it is. If a tree doesn't get a lot of sunlight, well, there's very little the tree can do. It can't just uproot itself and walk over to somewhere where there's more sunlight and then replant itself. But you can. If you don't like the circumstances that you find yourself in your life, well, change. No one's going to stop you. Change. If at least now you're beginning to understand the purpose of your life, how you have been so fortunate to receive the gift of Dhamma, then change. If at the end of this year, all you have done is you just know a lot of Dhamma that you didn't used to know, you can talk about anicca dukkha anatta like a parrot, but have no idea, no semblance of really what it all means, then that's just another year gone by. You have become more knowledgeable. You have become wealthier. You have become maybe more powerful because of your connections, because of your educational qualifications. All a means to an end. Knowledge is simply a means to an end. It's the application of knowledge that is important. So in the new year, I would really urge you all to come up with a list of things you want to do in the new year. And I'm not really going to talk to you about, buy myself a car, get myself into a better school, get married. I have no interest in talking about those things. I used to, but not anymore. These are not the things I'm urging you to consider. I want you all to get a notebook before the end of the old year. Start writing down the defilements that you find in your mind. Raga, dvesha, moha. A page each. That'll do for starters. The times in your life where you just can't break the seduction. The things that you find yourself so strongly bound to, you just can't break off. It might be simple things like chocolate cake. Or it might be bigger things that you wouldn't like me talking about in public. Things that you find yourself ashamed to talk about. I do this with our novice monks. I talk to them. Swami knows what are the things that defile your mind. What raga do you have? What types of dvesha do you have? What moha do you have? What are some addictions that you might have? You're finding it difficult to break. I'll help you. So I don't have the time to sit down with you one-to-one and have these conversations, but I urge you, do this. Parents, do this with your children. There can't be much that they are not willing to share with you. So write down a list of raga, desire that you have in your mind. Write down a list. Chocolate cake, string hoppers, addicted to watching TV, Kanye West. Write them down. PlayStation, computer games, all these things that you're addicted to, all these things that really bring you pleasure, in other words. These are the raga, these are the desires that you have. Because remember, for as long as you have these desires defiling your mind, you are that much further away from Nibbana. You are that much further away from Nibbana. All these things you have to overcome. One by one you have to overcome them. And the best way to start is by making a list, so you can go through them. You know, sometimes when you sit down to meditate, some people have a problem. What do I meditate on? Well, now you have a list. Now you have a list of things, and if you order them, what is the top most desirous thing that you have that always troubles you? And usually the best way to do this is if you just sit down and close your eyes, it's usually the first place your mind runs to. It could be anything. Could be the guy next door. There might be a particular TV program that you just can't break the addiction to. For some, it might be news. I knew someone who spends about 10 hours a day just watching news. And he wasn't even a news reporter. 10 hours a day watching news. Can you imagine that? 10 hours of precious human life watching news? As far as I'm concerned, much of news is just really waste of time. All you need is in the headlines if you really need to watch the news. Anything from that is just, just picking up garbage, filling your mind up with garbage. So do you find yourself doing those things? Do you find yourself addicted to reading the newspaper every day? Ask yourself. Is there a particular teledrama that you just can't break the habit of watching? Do you always find yourself sitting in front of the TV at that hour, 7 o'clock sharp, and if there's a power cut, then that just sends you insane? Ask yourself. So write down a list of the things that you find desire, the things that keep you from Nibbana. Then there's dvesha. All the people and the things and the events that you always find yourself in conflict with. Sometimes it may be that it's your closest relatives, or at least you used to think of them as relatives, but now you don't even want to think of them as being relatives. Might be a fight you had, an exchange of words that left that relationship in a very sour state. If you don't have the courage, if you don't have the guts to overcome that, well, you're that much further away from Nibbana. If you don't have the humility, if you don't have the humbleness to overcome that, and it doesn't overcome just like that, there are things you have to do. And like Guru Swami Nuhasi reminded over the last weeks, the new year is a great time to do that. To go over, pick up the phone if you can't reach them physically, and just say you're sorry. Sorry about what happened. Yesterday or the day before, a mother visited me because she wanted to talk about an issue she was having with her daughter. She has 2 daughters. One of them is quite interested and keen in the Dhamma, but the other, she doesn't even talk with the mother. For about a year now, she doesn't talk with the mother. Long story, so I'm not going to go into the details of all that, but some of this started off when their father left them for good. He'd taken with him all the wealth and everything that this mother had worked hard to achieve. Having only left the children behind, the father had left with everything. And so now this mother finds herself alone and having to bring up these 2 children by herself. So she says, Swami Nohansa, I've been listening to your sermons for some time now, and I realize that I have to change. I know that my husband is never going to change. Words were exchanged some years ago, and then that was the end of our connection. He left without even saying goodbye, on bad terms, but I have to change. I'm serious about Nibbana. I'm serious about my salvation. So she says, before the new year, she's going to get herself a new SIM because she doesn't want to keep those